Hello and welcome to this module which is titled Child, Definition and Social Construct of Child and Childhood. My name is Mahua Nigudkar. I am a faculty with the School of Social Work, Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Mumbai. This module is part of the larger paper on juvenile justice, which is within the subject of criminology. Now, what will this module cover? This module will cover what do we understand by the terms child, childhood. This module will also cover the importance of understanding the age factor and its interlinkage of understanding child and childhood. The module will also briefly delve into the history of childhood, how childhood as a concept has evolved over time and place, and also for us to understand that while child may have a definitive age component, childhood, well, there is no universal definition. It is a dynamic concept, it is not a static concept. Depending on social realities, depending on changes that have happened in the world, our whole understanding and notion of childhood too has been changing. So this module will take us through a brief presentation on childhood, and how do we develop a perspective on children while working within the juvenile justice system. Child and childhood is a lived experience for us. We were all children and we have our memories associated with it. Our childhood experiences have influenced our thoughts and behavior. Much of what we are today could be an outcome of our lives as a child. Thinking about childhood can evoke pleasant, joyful, nostalgic thoughts or dark and unhappy memories. Now, while we may use concepts such as child and adult, our expectations from a child often is also determined by societal norms of child and childhood and the accepted behavior from a child. For any behavior which is not considered childlike and does not quite fit with the notion of a child and yet demonstrated or expressed by a child, we are sometimes left wondering about how to approach such situations. So when we look at child and childhood, it's very, very important to have a contextual understanding of it. We cannot apply one uniform definition for childhood experiences. Many times we tend to analyze childhood based on our own childhood experiences. That may not be sufficient. We need to understand that it is highly contextual and it depends and differs from individual child to child, while the age of the child, there is a definite component in terms of age 18. Then a very important factor or dimension rather in understanding child and childhood is the image that we have of children in society. So all of us have a certain image of a child, right? So we may view the child as mischievous, we may view the child as naughty, as innocent or carefree, or we may view the child as very wild and disobedient and not listening. So we all have images of child, who a child is. Many times when we think of a child, we always tend sometimes to think of somebody very young. But children and childhood only does not refer to very young persons. They actually refer to all young persons who have not completed the age of 18 years. And that is very important for us to remember and to recognize and acknowledge also, because India has ratified the Convention on the Rights of the Child. Once a country ratifies the Convention on the Rights of the Child, the country has then takes on this mandate of harmonizing all its national laws, policies, schemes and programs to make it child's rights based, to frame it within the perspective of child's rights and child protection. So coming back to this image of childhood, now when we have images of who a child is, who an adult is, there are certain expectations and that comes with that image. And along with this image, there is also a certain role that society would expect a child to play or an adult to play. Now, many times children get into behaviors which are not really childlike. Similarly, sometimes we adults may get into very childish behaviors or childlike behaviors. But does that really make us children just because we are exhibiting a childlike or a childish behavior? No, we still continue to remain as adults. So similarly, let's say for example, A 12-year-old boy is working in a garage, is earning a meager salary, but his salary goes into supporting his entire family. And he has been working for the last 2 years. So he has started working at the age of 10. Now, is he a child? Or let's say two 17-year-old college-going students get into a romantic relationship, decide to run away and get married. So are they children? Or let us say a 16-year-old boy takes the keys of his father's car, goes out on the streets without a license, gets into rash driving, gets into accident and comes under the juvenile justice system as a child in conflict with law. Now, would you consider this boy a child? Or let us say a 15-year-old girl child has been given into marriage. Now she already has a young child of her own. So would you consider this mother a child? The last but not the least example, today in reality shows, we have young children as young as 8 and 9 and 10-year-olds dancing to romantic numbers, dancing to songs which are not meant for them, mouthing lyrics of songs which are not meant for them. So such dances, such romantic numbers, gyrating their bodies in a particular way, would you then consider them as adults? For example, Raju is a 12-year-old boy and has been working in a hotel for the past 4 years. He gets a regular salary of 4,000 and is able to manage his income well. Raju sends money to his village as well as saves for himself. He states that he is already working for 4 years and is too old to study now. He wants to continue working and states that he is very happy that he is not going to school. Now, Raju is only 12 years. Would we insist that Raju goes to school like any 12-year-old boy, or do we treat him as a working person? Yet another example. Rima, aged 15 years, has a boyfriend aged 25 years and wants to marry him after she completes 18 years of age. So do we support her decision or scold Rima for having a much older boyfriend at such a young age? And there would be many such examples in our day-to-day life. In all of these situations, the child sometimes behaves contrary to conventional adult notions and expectations. So will we treat them as a child depending on whether their behavior is childlike or adult-like? There are no easy answers. However, adult-like behavior does not make the child an adult. Our approach will have to depend on the child's age, the child's context, the child's life circumstances, present situations, implications, and so on and so forth. And of course, involving the child in any decision-making processes that are age appropriate. Then what is childhood? Childhood largely denotes a phase of life, a period of life spanning a certain number of years till the young person attains adulthood by virtue of chronological age. In one of their documents, UNICEF defines childhood as the time for children to be in school and at play, to grow strong and confident with the love and encouragement of their family and an extended family of caring adults. It is a precious time in which children should live free from fear, safe from violence, and protected from abuse and exploitation. As such, childhood means much more than just the space between birth and the attainment of adulthood. It refers to the state and conditions of a child's life, to the quality of those years. Despite intellectual debates about the definition of childhood and cultural differences about what to expect of children, there has always been a substantial degree of shared understanding that childhood implies a separated and safe space. What I just read out is an excerpt from the UNICEF document, which is very easily available from the internet. Childhood is also considered a cultural construct, as the cultural practices within which the child is growing also determines childhood. This is from the work of Mason and Stedman, 1977. While the age aspect and some biological characteristics would be universal across societies, other characteristics or behavior of a child would be specific to the context within which a child lives and the expectations from that society. Now let me give a few examples. For example, In a rural area, it is possible that a boy of 16 years of age may be busy working in the fields and helping his family. He may or may not be going to school. He is considered old enough to work. His childhood comprises work and little else. However, in that same rural area, there may be many other children of his age who are not only going to school but also working, or who may be only going to school and staying at home and studying. I would like to give you another example. Another 16-year-old boy, let us say, in a small town, may be busy preparing for his board exams. His family has told him not to do any work even at home and focus only on his exams. In the same town, there may be another 16-year-old boy selling vegetables with his father the whole day. What I want to illustrate from these examples, and I'm sure you will have many such examples in your day-to-day life, that there is no single universal childhood being experienced by all children. It differs across place, culture, time, and has a unique meaning for every individual child. There may be different childhoods even within the same place. For example, even within the same family, the two siblings may be experiencing very different childhood based on how their parents are treating them, how they are coping at school, whether they are doing well, not doing well, what kind of friends they have, and so on and so forth. So when we are working with children, we really need to understand the childhoods that they have experienced, and we really need to recognize this fact that their experience of childhood has impacted or would be impacting to some extent their adult life. So the point is, this creates its own set of dilemma in our mind, and the Nirbhaya incident is a big case in point, because there was this young person involved in this very, very gruesome, very, very painful incident that shook the whole country, was less than 18 years. There were a lot of questions raised that whether an adult-like behavior then would accord this person the special status and special provisions of children and childhood that I have been discussing about. So just as I mentioned, that childlike behavior exhibited or demonstrated by an adult does not make the adult a child. Similarly, adult-like behavior does not make the child an adult. And this I would really like to emphasize, because this is where we develop our perspective on who are vulnerable children, how do we work with them, and how do we work with vulnerable children within the juvenile justice system. Any behavior that is exhibited or demonstrated by a child can be adult-like. But if as a society we have committed to this conviction that till age 18 we will provide direction, we will provide guidance, we will teach and groom and guide our young persons on certain boundaries and how to conduct themselves in a constructive life so that they grow up as constructive and happy adults, then we cannot pick and choose children. Children are a accumulation of experiences. Just as I mentioned, there are so many factors that a child experiences during their childhood. This shapes their thinking, this shapes their behavior, this shapes their personality, this shapes their thoughts. Sometimes it goes into the positive way and sometimes it becomes negative. So there are many fallouts when children do not get that love and care, children do not get education, children do not get that adult protection that they are supposed to get at a young age. And the fallouts are many. Child may get into exploitative child labor, child may go missing, child may get trafficked, child may also go into juvenile crime or juvenile or even addiction. So the point I am making is, children, childhood behavior, they have to be all understood together, and they have to be all understood in an integrated manner. For example, when a child does well in class 10, or when a child does well in class 12, or when a child does well in college, young person, let's say, there is a lot of praise and appreciation for that young person. The media also reports about this young person. But the credit is not given to this young person alone. The credit is given to the child, the credit is given to the parents, the school, and many others of course, the child deserves a lot of appreciation for the hard work the child has put in, for the determination the child has shown. But credit is given to many others who have ensured, who have facilitated this child's progress towards doing very well. So similarly, when a child does wrong or when a child gets into crime, should that onus and should that responsibility be on that child alone? So going back to the history of childhood, all over the world, as there were advances in medical sciences, there were advances in technology, there was a lot of work done by social workers and social reformers about this whole need to treat children as a special category. Gradually all over the world, there was this recognition that children cannot be treated as mini adults. They have to be treated as a distinct category. They have some unique requirements. Their needs and capacities are evolving. There are some priority areas that needs to be looked into while they are children, and hence it becomes imperative for society and state to accord them a special status. Towards the latter half of the 20th century, we've had the Convention on the Rights of the Child, and that is the CRC. Now the CRC, that is the Convention on the Rights of the Child, is among the most ratified documents in the world, which emphasizes and endorses that all children all over the world, irrespective of their age, their status, the region they may belong to, the gender or sexual identities they may have, they are all entitled to certain basic rights. Among the several sets of rights that has been outlined in the CRC emphasizes on best interest of the child, right to participation, right to survival, right to development. And I would encourage all of you to read this document, the Convention on the Rights of the Child, and build your own understanding on the CRC. In India, post-independence, after partition also, through different 5-year plans, through different kinds of policies and schemes, the government of India has tried to accord this special status to children, and it all began with children being recognized as a vulnerable group in the Constitution of India itself. So there are several articles, both within the arena of fundamental rights as well as within the directive principles of state policy, wherein children have been accorded this special status. Now if we go back to child and childhood, as I was mentioning earlier, age plays a very, very important role. It is that determining factor that distinguishes a child from an adult. And there is a certain cutoff age whereby a child legally becomes an adult. Now, what are these distinguishing and determining factors? Well, if we look at age as a cutoff factor, or age as a very important criteria for understanding child and childhood, then you will see that there are special programs for children, both within the arena of legislation, within the arena of policy, within the arena of schemes that the government of India has introduced. There are NGO and civil society initiatives, and some of the critical areas are immunization, nutrition, education, healthcare, right to protection, prevention of abuse and exploitation. In all of these areas, age does play an important role. For example, a one-day-old baby or a newborn baby, critical needs would be that of immunization, critical needs would be that of safe delivery practices. Critical need would be that of maternal and child health care. But if you're looking at a 15-year-old boy, if you're looking at a 16-year-old girl, if you're looking at a teenager with any kind of gender identity, then probably based on their age and stage of life, critical need would be their future, their career plans, what is it they want to do after class 10, after class 12. If you look at an 8-year-old child, then probably the critical need is the child having access to schooling, is the child's identity getting shaped, is the child's self-confidence getting built. So when we look at needs and age of children, there would be two kinds of needs. One kind of needs cuts across all age groups of children. So some of the basic needs such as love and care, affection of adults, guidance and direction to children, health care, education, protection. These needs would be common across all age groups. But again, there would be certain set of needs which are very critical for certain age groups, what I was mentioning just earlier. So when we are looking at children, when we are looking at child and childhood, there are so many dimensions and aspects to it. And then when we study something like a Juvenile Justice Act or the juvenile justice system, it is very important to be conceptually clear about what is child, what is childhood, and then who are the children who are coming within the profile or who are coming within the purview of the juvenile justice system. Now if we look at childhood, as I was mentioning earlier, there are many factors that determine childhood. All of us, as I was sharing earlier, we have been children before and we have our own positive and negative memories of it. Now if we look back and think for a moment, we may find that some things happened very well in our lives and it has shaped what we are today. It has influenced our thoughts, our behavior, it has shaped our personality. We have a certain positive outlook towards life, and if we reflect back on all the experiences that we've had as children, then you will find so many things happened well for us when we were children. Unfortunately, in a country like India, not all children have had a happy childhood and not all children are experiencing a happy childhood. A large number of children are growing up in an atmosphere of apathy, atmosphere of neglect, in an environment of abuse and exploitation, lack of access to basic resources or basic entitlements rather, like education, like healthcare, like protection, and so on and so forth. So if I briefly outline what are the factors that would impact childhood experiences, I would say one is the family the child is born into, the kind of resources the family has, the relationships that the family, the parents, the extended family members, the siblings develop with the child. Is this child growing up in a feeling, in an atmosphere of trust? Is this child growing up in an atmosphere of care and nurturance? So family, familial relationships, the socio-economic factors that impact family also impact childhood experiences. The child who is born into a family, the class, the region, the religion, the gender identity, all of it shapes and impacts childhood. Then would come biological characteristics, basic genetic traits, basic endowments that a child comes into the world with. So whether we like it or not, a tall child, a thin child, a fair complexion child, a dark complexion child, a child who's very good with academics vis-a-vis a child who's not good with academics, a child who may be wanting to do sports but is not very talented in sports, all of these factors impact childhood experiences positively and negatively. Let's move on to another topic, factors influencing and impacting childhood. The experience of childhood is a combination of biological factors such as traits, physical endowments, psychological factors, thoughts, feelings, emotions, relationships, and familial and socio-cultural factors such as family situation, social milieu, cultural practices, so on and so forth. Mash and Wolf 2013 have also enumerated some of these factors. Childhood is also shaped and impacted by structural factors such as caste, patriarchy, gender, race, religion, and region. Each child's experience of being a child and experiencing childhood will be different. Now let us give some examples and illustrations. For example, Shalu, aged 17 years, lives with her husband and a 1-year-old child. Shalu has passed her class 10 exam. Her father expired due to illness. Shalu's mother thought that it would be safer for Shalu to get married. Shalu is only 17 years of age. Though Shalu is otherwise happy, she wanted to study and work. Shalu spends her time cooking and looking after her child. Yet another example. Rani, aged 17 years, similar to that of Shalu's age, stays in an apartment with her parents. She has 2 brothers. Rani's father believes that both boys and girls must get all equal opportunities. Rani attends one of the best colleges in her locality. Rani also attends karate and music classes and has won many prizes. Let's go to a third example. Salim, aged 13 years, is very popular in the school with both teachers and students. He is cheerful and friendly. His father is a daily wage laborer and mother is a domestic worker. The family has 3 children and both parents are struggling hard to manage the expenses. Salim is unable to cope with studies but works hard and passes all his exams. Every evening he helps his mother with the housework and carries heavy cans of water from the local tap for his family. Salim is only 13 years old. Yet another example. Rohil, aged 11 years, trembles with fear every time his parents walk through the door. Father drinks heavily and there are regular fights in the house. Rohil's mother is very strict about his studies. Due to constant anxiety, Rohil is unable to concentrate on his studies. Rohil is also not able to see the blackboard in his classroom clearly. He mentioned this to his mother, who told him not to give silly excuses and focus on his studies. Rohil failed in 3 subjects. Parents were called to school. After hearing about Rohil's performance, mother beat him with a thick wooden stick for 1 hour. Rohil was unable to walk for many days. He lied to everybody that he had fallen down. All of the children in these case illustrations you can see are less than 18 years of age. Yet their life experiences and what they are experiencing in their childhood is shaping not only their current life but may have an impact on their future life as well. Thus, to sum up, there are 4 critical factors that impact childhood. There would be many others as well, but I would like to highlight 4 factors. 1. Family situation. 2. Identity. 3. Biological characteristics. And 4. Availability and access to resources. And a combination of these factors impact and influence childhood. So as I was mentioning, a child is a product of the environment, a child is a product of experiences of childhood, a child is a product of influences that the child has during their childhood. And when things go well in a child's life, more often than not, children are happier, they do well, they progress and they flourish as individuals as they grow up. When things don't go too well in the child's life, there are many fallouts that can happen in the child's life. Due to poverty, due to family-related difficulties, due to economic problems, the child can get into child labor situations. Often the children get trafficked, children can go missing, children may come under the purview of the juvenile justice system, children can go into begging, and children can also go into addiction and crime. Does this mean that they are alone responsible for this situation? No, they are not alone responsible for this situation. As I mentioned, it's a combination of factors that go wrong, and that is why children end up in these kind of vulnerable situations. So any kind of work that we do with children, irrespective of the age, we need to keep this perspective in mind. We need to understand the child in their own socio-economic, biological, cultural context. And only then we will be able to take well-informed decisions about their life, and if there is a requirement or a need for social work intervention, then we can plan relevant programs for them. So while I summarize this module, I can say that this module tried to make us relook at this whole concept of childhood. We delved a little into the history of childhood. We looked at how there are so many factors that determine childhood experiences and that shape childhood. We also would like to emphasize in this module that adult-like behavior will not make the child an adult. As society, we are responsible for giving them direction, for giving them care, protection, nurturance, till they complete a certain age. And within the Indian context and within our laws, till they complete 18 years of age. In that process, then we cannot pick and choose children. So we cannot only work with mainstream children, we cannot only work with children who are doing well and who have things going well for them in their lives. Of course, these children too are entitled to rights. These children too are entitled to a happy life. These children too are entitled to adult nurturance. But what about those children for whom things are not going well in their lives? These children require a special attention from the state, from society, and if we get stuck on the behavior of that child, then we will not be able to progress much. So in this paper on juvenile justice, any kind of work that we do within the juvenile justice system, it is important to start with this basic understanding of child and childhood. I would strongly encourage you to read the write-up and the text that accompanies this module so that you can get more details, so that you can get newer insights while you read the text. I would also strongly encourage you to look up references. This module also has a list of references, but it will not be an exhaustive list. If you want to delve further into this subject, do read up more, do build your understanding, do develop your own thoughts and positions on who children are, what childhood is, what is vulnerability, and then we can go out into society as very, very effective advocates of child rights and child protection. So I end this module here. Thank you very much.